Welcome to Lessons After Sessions. I'm Trev.
And I am Jen.
How are you doing, Jen?
I'm doing really good. It's like it's a weird season right now. I feel like literally like the weather is just
Yes,
hot.
like the
And
actual season, not
yes,
season of our life. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah. So it's just trying to kind of oddly navigate that. Like it's just one of those things where I'm just really tired of summer. And I want to wear my fall clothes, and the weather is not cooperating with that. So I'm just, a little off
I
on that.
understand. Yeah. See, I prefer summer clothes. I mean, I am sort of excited for boots and things like that, like boots with a dress. But at the same time, I know what comes after fall, and I really don't want that.
Me either. True. I agree. I want like the fall that we had a couple of weeks ago where it was super chill. So, but we'll get there and then we'll be wishing it was warm. So there's that.
I know. So we need to just be in our present moment and thankful for having weather at all.
Agreed.
Because if we didn't have weather, I'm not sure what that means. Maybe end of the world or something. I don't know.
What what's relevant in your world right now?
I mean, I think just living, trying to get through this thing called life, which
Yep.
can be a little tricky, but also very beautiful. So I'm really trying to hold on to this concept of triggers versus glimmers and focus more on the glimmers.
I love that. The glimmers has been a catchphrase lately and I love it. I think it's so relevant. It's relevant, right? Yeah.
It's relevant.
I
So
love that.
I'm really trying to focus on glimmers. How about you? What's relevant for you?
I think there's so many things right now that are relevant. My life is kind of hectic right now. And this last weekend, we went and saw my stepdaughter at school at Ole Miss for her family weekend. And, it was just really cool. It was a fast and furious weekend, but, it was great to see her in her element. She's totally kind of adapting and fitting in. And I think kind of as like from a step parent's role, it was really cool to be able to be included in that, be a part of that, and just so
Yes,
thankful. So
that's wonderful.
yeah, it was neat.
I'm glad you had fun.
And it made me kind of think about, as we've gone on through this alienation section of our podcast and the different things that we've kind of tackled. And I think that really ties into, alienation 100% happens. I mean, it can happen when we have two parents that are still together. But generally speaking, most of the time it happens during the course of separation or divorce or two families
Yes.
splitting. And then there's a lot of complications that get added in, when you do add step parents, when you do blend a family and things like that. It really, I've kind of been through all of that and I'm at the end of that journey now. And I think that's why this weekend was so beautiful is because, I've really worked really hard to create healthy relationships with my stepdaughter and then vice versa with my husband and my kids and those being his stepchildren and blending our family together and all of the things that we have gone through to get to this place and the reward of having everyone be together, everyone loving on each other, and it just being like such a beautiful family. I mean, I just sat back so many times and thought, we're so lucky. And I am so, so thankful and so in awe of this beautiful family that we've created together. But it didn't come without its challenges, right?
Absolutely. That's such a beautiful thing for you to share. I also have stepchildren and just love them dearly. And we are so very close. And I just cherish that. I cherish those relationships.
And they're because I think the cool thing about step parents and blending a family is it's kind of the family you choose. It's not, you're not necessarily blood related. So you choose to put forth an effort. You choose to show up for each other. And that is so powerful.
Very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of along those lines of what we've been talking about in this series, that can often be a huge struggle when we're dealing with divorce, separation, and alienation. And I think what we were going to try to do today was give some scenarios to really try to help people with what can they do when there is active alienation occurring
Mhm.
and in different circumstances. And so I'd like to throw one out at you if you're
Okay.
okay with that.
Yeah, bring it.
What would you do if you had a child who was being alienated by your ex,
Mhm.
and this child is on the phone every time they're at your house? They are constantly on the phone with their dad,
Mhm.
always on the phone. They get mad at you. They go right to their room and get on the phone, tell their dad what you did. They're supposed to be doing their homework. You check in, they're on the phone with their dad. They're walking through the house on the phone with their dad, but they have no time to talk to you and never reach out to you, call you, talk to you when they're over at dad's house.
Right.
What would you do?
Oof. That is so common that it happens, I think, with technology and the ability to stay super connected. That is just a very common occurrence when it comes to alienation. And I'll add on to that a step further, some of the things that I've seen, and then I'll kind of go into how I feel like I would handle it. Also, with them being on their phone, they could be taking pictures or videos of you and the things in your house and what's going on. I've also
So,
seen it where, the tracking is available to the other parent. And so they turn on their tracking device so that they can track everywhere that you're going. And so that's not great either because there's no privacy involved. Your child is being used. Not only they're on their phone all the time, but the information that's there's no privacy, right? So I think, my first instinct is, when we see that, we feel personally attacked. And so when you feel personally attacked, a lot of times you come out on the defense in trying to kind of eliminate the behavior. And that's your gut instinct. That is actually the wrong thing to do. Because by pushing on that behavior and saying, get off the phone with your dad, don't videotape my house, don't do this, don't do that, you're just sequestering a pretty significant response from them in combativeness. They're going to go against it. They're going to be hostile with it. So rather than calling them out on what it is that they're doing on their phone and who they're communicating with on their phone, change your perspective of to the phone is the problem, not what they're doing or who they're communicating to. So
yes.
maybe try to set some soft boundary or hard boundaries, but with not being really rigid, but somewhat rigid, of more of like when we eat dinner at the table, then the phones go away. When it's time for you to do your homework, the phone just goes away, gets turned off long enough for you to get your homework done, and then that. So there's not punishment for the information that they're sending back or for communicating nonstop with the other parent, but there is consequences for not doing things that they should be doing, such as the homework or chores or being present at the dinner table, like disrespectful, rude things. But in that same breath, you've got to be kind of careful with that because if you really start to push on the disrespect and those kinds of things with them in the phone, they're going to automatically reject that because they're being told they're being disrespectful, but they're actually just kind of a puppet on a string communicating back and forth with the other parent. So their actions aren't really their own. And this is something that is so hard for people, and myself included, to get through your head is that your kid who's being alienated is not, it's like they've been possessed. It's like they've been brainwashed. So the behaviors that they're showing, the disrespect, the rudeness, the hostility, those are not your child. Those are the behaviors of the alienator coming through your child. So you have to kind of reposition the way you look at your child as more of like a victim of
Yes,
the
they are because
manipulation.
Yes, they're a victim of manipulation.
Right. So when you look at their child as a victim of manipulation, then all of a sudden getting on them about disrespect, it's not really their fault that they're being disrespectful. It's the alienator's fault that they're, so it's not fair to punish them for someone else's issues that they're, inflicting on them. So you have to really kind of protect that with them. And I think you'll find when you take a step back a little bit and really focus on just rules that would make sense without having the consequence be because of so taking that and saying, yes, we're going to put rules on this phone screen time, but not because of the fact that you're talking to your other parent, but because those are rules that are appropriate for your age and for what's going on in your life right now. So that's kind of my instinct. I think the biggest thing is don't take that phone away. Let them have it. Don't call them out on who are you talking to? What are you saying? Don't read their texts. You don't want to know. And don't confront them on those things. You just have to really take a deep breath, bite your tongue, and walk away from it. And that's so hard to do.
It's so hard. I think that's what I have had so many people really struggle because we're human, so their feelings are getting hurt, right? So
Sure.
they even though it's their child, even though they know their child's being manipulated, their feelings are hurt. And
Hmm.
there's an almost auto response to that. And so it takes a lot of practice and willpower to not have that auto response and to do things differently than you might do in a situation where alienation wasn't happening, which is disrespect may have a certain consequence in your home. But when they're being disrespectful about you as a parent, about being able to be on the phone because of the alienation, you have to ignore it, and that goes against so many people's natural instinct. But you don't wanna get caught in that back and forth power struggle on that issue because you will lose. The alienated
Hmm.
parent will lose every time, every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. And then when and that's one thing I think you make a really good point of that is that put down your sword. It's not a battle, right? The goal isn't to win. And I think that the alienator's goal is to win. But when you lower yourself to your goal being to win as well, no, everyone's going to lose. So being able to recognize that. So, my challenge for you is you are a parent and you're going through high conflict separation. Your child is being alienated. They are currently at the other parent's house for the weekend, and you get a text message from your ex, the alienator, saying, little Joey isn't coming home. He doesn't want to spend any more time with you. He doesn't want to go. I'm not going to make him go. He's just not coming home. I know it's your visitation time is supposed to start in 2 hours, but I'm not going to be there with him. How do you respond?
So, because in that scenario, it's adult to adult, I think you stay very fact-based with that ex. So, if that were me, I would have zero emotion and I would have just a response of the current order is, so I look forward to seeing you. I would just keep repeating that back to the adult because you have some leverage in that oftentimes alienators will push those buttons up until the very last second, but ultimately they know that there's this order. And so a lot of times they will go ahead and bring that child back.
Hmm.
Okay. So you don't get engaged in an emotional texting battle or phone call, especially text, because alienators will often show the child the text and say, look at what your mom, look at what your
Yep.
dad just said. So you just stay very fact based about what the current order is. I will see you at this time.
So let
If
me add a complication to it. And let's say that you start receiving text messages from your child
right.
saying, I am not coming home. Dad says that I don't have to come if I don't want to. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to see you. I want to stay here. How do you respond to your child?
Um, in a loving way that does not engage in, why don't you want to come home? What do you mean? Of course. No, we have an order. Blah. You just say, I love you so much. And I really can't wait to see you. You, in different forms, you keep responding with, I can understand how you feel. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. I love
Mm,
you. So, again, engagement is non emotional outside of saying, I love you. I can't wait to see you. But you don't get into the weeds with your kid. You don't talk about the order says this, the order says that. Your parent, your mom, your dad better bring you here at this time or there's going to be real trouble. What have I ever done to you? What do you mean you don't want to? Again, losing battles,
mhm,
especially because they are currently in the care of alienating parent. So
mhm,
they're feeling really empowered and really fired up. So you you send those messages of I love you, I'm looking forward to seeing you. And I wouldn't respond to if it just keeps coming at you. I would just stop responding.
mhm.
And again, you've shared with the other parent what your expectation is, and I think that's all I would do. Again, in private, am I crying? Am I upset? Am I angry? Am I frustrated? Absolutely. But I'll do that on my own time with my own support system. My
Mhm,
interactions with my ex, with my child are going to be very composed, very factually based,
mhm.
non-emotional, and not frequent, not responding to every single one. Uh,
Yeah,
Again, the less engagement, the better.
yeah. And you made a really good point of it really it's I think these scenarios are so complicated and so trying and so difficult and there's so much room for error because we're human, we're emotional. We're going through something really heavy and so we're not really in at the best space either. So I think, you made a really good point of like being able to vent that out to your support system. Another thing that I think is really useful too is when you're going through these scenarios and things with this, it's really important to have kind of an ongoing journal that you can document things on. And this will become useful for a lot of different reasons, but I think more so than anything, it's for you to be able to vent that out in a healthy space rather than if you have a text you want to write it down in the journal instead and then write the appropriate one. So you still feel like you're getting those feelings and those thoughts out, but you're doing it in a way that isn't directly pointed and creating more conflict than there already is.
That's a great point and a wonderful tool.
Mhm.
I think also I want to add that if and when that child is actually returned, when they walk through that door, you bring nothing up. The instinct again is to say, okay, they're finally back here. What happened? What you say nothing. Hey, how was your night? How was your weekend? You don't get into talking about what had just occurred 30 minutes ago or an hour ago. You just act like, "Ooh," and you have dinner if it's dinner time, and you just look past and ignore the door slamming, I hate yous, I didn't want to come back. Again, I know that they're leaving an imprint. I know that you're storing those things.
Mhm.
Journaling, support system,
Mhm.
that's where you release that. But to the child, again, marathon, not a sprint. You want them to look back and go, wow, how did you do that? How'd you keep it together and still smile and not
Mhm.
even talk about all the ugly things I said to you? They
Yeah.
will respect that. They will. So you're doing it for the long term relationship, not the short term.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times the instinct, if you don't question and ask, a lot of the instinct is like silent treatment. Well, I'm just not going to talk to this kid. I'm going to pretend like I'm going to show them through my actions and not words how sad I am by what they did. That needs to be checked too because those are manipulative behaviors and so you're again lowering yourself to that same playing field that the alienator is on. So it's really important to again think of that kid as a victim. This is not your child right now. Your child is being possessed. Your child is being brainwashed. So think of who your kid was before. Take away all of that scaly stuff on the outside. Who is the core of your child? That's what you're speaking to. You're speaking to that person underneath all of there. And you've just got to really change your mindset with it and the way that you look at it. It's hard.
It's so hard. Again, because
Mhm.
it goes against most of our instincts
Mhm.
in being a parent and also just being a human being and having someone that you love so much, like your child, say horrific things and just be a completely different person than the one you knew previous to all of this happening. And so it is emotionally draining.
Mhm.
And that's why having a real solid support system is so important
Mhm.
because you will need it. You will need that to get through. And give yourself grace if you accidentally have an emotional reaction, you accidentally get pulled in and you find yourself in that struggle, give yourself grace, back out of it and just know that okay, I'm not perfect. Whew, reset.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do one more scenario. You got anything that comes to mind?
Yes, yes. I have a very common one that is so heartbreaking. Let's say your child is involved in sports, some sort of activity, and it's their game, it's their presentation, whatever it is. And you're there, your ex is there with all family, and the game's over, the presentation's over, and you're walking up to say, congratulations, you did a beautiful job. And your child looks at you, completely ignores you, turns the other way, goes to the other parent, hugging, laughing, chatting, and walks off with them, leaving you standing there alone. What do you do?
Been there, done that. So
Whew.
this, yeah, it is, and it's interesting because, yes, it's heartbreaking, it's humiliating because a lot of times you're in front of your child's peers, their families, their parents. It's like you're being rejected in front of everyone.
Yes, for the whole world to see.
Yeah. So there's a variety of different things that come to mind of like what your gut would be, which would be to run after the child. Wait a minute, you didn't talk to me, you didn't say anything to me. Maybe to go out in the parking lot and wait for them to come out there to try to catch them. To try to kind of, slough it off and talk to people around you and poke fun at the other parent or say something derogatory or shitty about them to try to kind of deflect. But really, in all honesty, the feeling that you feel inside of there is so devastating. I think the embarrassment of it, the rejection, the hurt, really what you got to do is just swallow that and get to your car. Get to your car, get to your family's car, get to whatever mode of transport, walk home, whatever it needs to do, you just need to leave. You just need to leave. You just need to hold your chin high and just walk away. Now, when you get home, then, there's always this feeling of like, I don't want that to happen again. So I have a couple of solutions. Either A, I'm not going to show up for anything if that's the way my kid's going to treat me afterwards. B, I'm going to talk to
Ugh.
my kid when they get home and I'm going to say, that's never going to happen again. You're going to discipline, or you're going to come down on them for that. Those are all the wrong answers. What you really have to do, and what takes probably one of, and it's the same kind of feeling through all of this things that the scenarios that we've talked about. What you really have to do is just continue to show up. But the next time, what you do is you stand there and you expect for them to walk right past you and walk away, and that's okay. You turn and you walk away too. And then you go back the next time and you show up and you show up and you show up. The worst thing you can do is to not show up. Because even though it seems like they don't care, they don't want you there, they do. Very much so.
Yes, they are
Very aware.
cheeky.
Absolutely. They are very aware of whether or not you show up. And so is the other parent. And if you choose that, if the humiliation and the hurt and the rejection is so heavy and you make it about you and you say, I can't do this anymore because it's too much for me, you have just handed them a golden ticket as to why you are the shitty parent that you are. They don't even show up for your games, they don't even come. They don't
You've
come for
given them
your, yep.
the ammunition. Yes.
You have to maintain control of your own power by continuing to show up. And the other thing that you also have to do is when you do see your child next, you have to tell them, "You did so great. You played great. You did well. I'm so proud of you." You don't want to completely shower them with tons of stuff because then that all of a sudden feels a little bit like you are kind of manipulating by doing too much
Yes,
of that love bombing. But you do want to acknowledge that you're proud of them, but you do not want to say a word about whether or not they talk to you after that event. You wanna just completely glaze over that and not give it any air. We wanna
absolutely.
supplicate that. Yeah.
Because again, the goal here in parenting is about your child having a solid sense of worth, of confidence, self esteem. So, even in the midst of this really, really horrible situation that's happening in the family dynamic with this alienation, you giving that, again, I totally love what you said. Don't love bomb because that just feels manipulative.
Mhm,
But because that is to build them up as an
mhm,
individual, the goal of parenting that child.
mhm,
You're letting them know they did a great job. You're boosting their confidence. You're
mhm.
letting them know you saw, you were proud, great job. It's so easy to lose sight in these situations of what is a parent anyway? Like, what is my goal here in parenting a person? And it's to raise a functional adult. And so you still have to put those nuggets, those glimmers in when you can, in spite of what is happening.
Well, and I think, you made a really good point with that too, with the glimmers that you do have to, the instinct, I hear it all the time is, well, I'm not going to validate or normalize their behavior by not talking about it. We have to talk about it, or I can't let that happen again. I'm going to raise a disrespectful adult that's never going to treat anyone with any humanity. No, 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 no. What you're basing that on is the assumption that your child is in a healthy space and they're not.
No,
So you have to accommodate, you have to meet them where they are. And that is not in a what used to be maybe a two-parent home. That is not in a place where, maybe the way you were raised. I hear that a lot where, well, this is the way my parents taught me. I'm not going to allow that to happen with my kid. Yes, you are. Because your kid is not the way you were raised. Their situation is very different. And we
they are in
cannot,
a really bad space.
yes, they're in a traumatic episode right now. We have to be cognizant of that. You have to handle it with kid gloves. And I think that's probably the hardest thing is that there's no roadmap. So we pull from what our past experience has been, whether it was the way we were raised,
Absolutely.
whether it was the way we raised them when we were together with our spouse. Those things no longer apply. This is completely uncharted water. You have to do it different. And by not doing it different, you really do risk the alienation progressing further, your relationship with them further deteriorating, all of those things. So you really have to, kind of just sit back and take a beat and just
Oh,
really, you got to eat some crow. And that is so hard to do.
it is so hard. It is so hard. Hopefully, these scenarios provided some guidance and some sense of a roadmap.
Mhm.
I think the lesson for me in this after this session is remember the end goal. Remember your child is being abused. So you're not going to punish your child for being abused in any
Mhm.
other form of abuse. Same thing here.
Mhm.
Really, really attempt to have that, be cognizant of that, have that in the front of your mind in all of your interactions with your child.
Absolutely.
What's your
That
lesson?
is, yes, that is so powerful. My lesson is, I think we get really nearsighted in what is going on right in front of us. We get kind of tunnel vision. And so my lesson is take a step back for a minute, take a breath, journal it out, do whatever you need to do, and take this moment as just a moment, right? Or just a period in time. This is temporary. This will not be forever. Do not make a mistake or a judgment on a temporary emotion and feeling that could have long term implications. And the other part of that is being able to recognize that my child will only be small once. They will only be in this place where they're controlled once. At some point, they will move into adulthood. let's set them up for when they move into adulthood and they get to choose whether or not they have you in their life. They choose because they look back on the way you behaved and the way that you treated them through all of this. And they say, yes, I want that parent in my life. So
Yes.
again, yeah,
Yes.
it's a marathon, not a sprint. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a sprint.
Yes.
We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us and take care.
Take care.